Hey, what's up guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you the best Silver Thorn deck profile post BT09. So for starters, of course you have to run the Silver Thorn starter. Naming too important, I mean you can even call her out. Grade 3, sadly, one copy of Dorian, that's all we're allowed to run. So Dorian to 1 has seriously crippled the card draw engine of the deck. So you're not going to be having that big of a hand size after every turn anymore. And yeah, so 1 Dorian is all we can run. 3 copies of the new VR, which is Silver Thorn Dragon Empress, Venus Look Here. So I really like her continuous skill where she gets 5000 power to all your front row units as long as all your front row guard circles are filled, which is really nice. I mean 25k boost to the front row is actually better than the old Venus Look Here, making your Rising Dragon go for 24, and 29 on XL2, so really nice, hitting the force numbers basically. And also her second skill, which is the Counterblast 1, discard 1, so it's like 1 Counterblast cheaper, but you only call to the front row this time. And at the end of the turn, if you have used her skill to call, you could send all your rearguards into the soul, and if you've sent 4 or more rearguards, you get additional imagery gift. So the gift of choice is always XL2, so that just means 1 more card draw, and that circle is actually real big as well because this deck is lacking of any clear finishes, so we just get additional attacker, so we just take it. So if we do right another turn, I mean like at the start of our next phase, right, if we do right, that's an additional circle as well, so there's like 2 more attacks. So final grade 3, we are playing 4 copies of the old VR Look Here, so still very solid. Rearguard Beastake, called out 22k, 27 if you're a Venus Look Here. You can even call out on turn 2 if you have, you've used Salvia or whatever. So still very solid. I would ride Look Here, well, as a finishing play. I mean, well, as final turn, it's just best to ride any Look Here, honestly. But on turns where you want to farm hand, especially if you have Dorian in Soul, ride this Look Here because you can't actually use Venus Look Here skill in conjunction with Dorian because their skills actually conflict each other. So if you use Venus Look Here skill, so Dorian would actually be in Soul by the time of resolving her skill, and when resolving her skill, you would actually have no more rearguards to send into Soul, so that means you actually don't draw any more cards of her skill. You draw 0 since you send 0 into Soul. So that's kind of what it is. I have a feeling Venus Look Here skill was actually designed by Bushiroad with the 1 Dorian restriction in mind. So it's kind of balanced, I guess. But I think Bushiroad should actually, increase the number of Dorians, especially this deck is not as dominant as it once was. Well, the card draw engine has been seriously crippled as a result of this 1 restriction of Dorian. And I think it's fine. This deck won't be broken if they actually increase the number of Dorians. So if Dorian actually sees they increase the number of Dorians you could play to 2, maybe. This would be the first card I would actually reduce in numbers of play because drawing cards is just so important. So it would actually go back to the old style of Pale Moon, ironically. So you would just write this instead. So that's all for the grade 3s. So moving on to the grade 2s, we are playing the 4 copies of Rising Dragon. So Rising Dragon, very solid, 19k beater. It's just too consistent, and that's why we like it. Just very solid all around. Next up, 4 copies of Lillian. Lillian, for the same reason as Rising Dragon, it's just your 19k beat stake, 24 with Venus Look Here. Just really solid. And her ability as well, to put something specific in your soul, that's like a card filter. I mean, like that's a deck filter by 1. And also her skill to gain power is it's continuous during your turn. So as long as you have 4 different Silver Thorns in soul, if you don't actually your Counterblast stuff, well, she's your 19k beater or 24 because Venus Look Here actually is a continuous skill. Next up, we're playing 3 copies of Salvia. So Salvia is the new addition to the Silver Thorn family from BT09. Salvia skill, on place, Counterblast 1, call up to 2 Silver Thorns from your soul to your rearguard circle. So it has allowed for this deck to have a very strong turn 2 play, because if you've wrote Irina turn 1 and turn 2 you write this on top of Irina, you're gonna get, you know, good soul charge usually because of how streamlined this deck is. If you realize there's no more Knife Dancer, there's no more Silver Thorns, there's no more Golden Beast Tamer, no more Endive Beast Tamer, so almost everything is Silver Thorn basically, so the soul charging is gonna be so smooth. And Salvia is gonna allow for that turn 2 aggressive play. And note that, well, Rising Dragon is a continuous skill as well, so if you have Rising Dragon in hand and you've called Salvia, rolled it or called it, you can even afterwards call this and make a 19k beater on turn 2. So going first is actually really big against an 8k Vanguard. And also, you could do a turn 2 Salvia play with Lillian. So if you have 2 counter blasts, you could, you know, even write Lillian, sending maybe Dorian into Soul. You know, you could even send Dorian into Soul and then call it out using Salvia's skill, so making for turn 2 Dorian potentially drawing, well, 2 cards if you have caught an entire field. Because on later turns, if you're riding Venus first ride on turn 3, you can't actually use Dorian's skill, so, you know, using Salvia early is quite good as well. And you can actually use Salvia in conjunction with Venus Lucia as well, because Venus Lucia only calls up to your front row, and then you can use Venus Lucia to call out Salvia, and then Salvia will call out the back row. So with the cost of 2 counter blasts, you basically get an entire field as well. So almost like the old Lucia. So for the final grade 2, this is the most important card in the deck. I feel that is 4 copies of Silver Thorn Shada. So Shada has become increasingly more important, and I played at 4 is because of the crippled card draw engine of the deck basically. And yeah, we just need to get through the enemy's turns. So that's basically what the Silver Thorn playstyle is about. You know, everything goes back into your soul at the end of the turn, you call it out the next turn. All you've got to do is survive the opposing enemy's turn, and then you get another fighting turn. So every time you're just gonna build up more circles, and then it's just a battle of attrition basically. So you're just gonna grind out opponent's resources. Unfortunately, we don't draw as much as before, and that's the reason why I play Shada at 4, and I find it extremely helpful, and it's really important because you like a clear finisher. So this deck's playstyle is just a battle of attrition, and honestly there are decks that do way better at this and scale better into late game, such as Grand Blues Night Rose, where they actually draw a lot more with their Ghost Ships and Ripple Banshees and whatnot, and yeah. So moving on to the grade 1s, we are playing 4 copies of Silver Thorn Irina. This is one of the best Vanguard rides in the game. So for grade 1, so it's really solid, and yeah, it is what it is. So most of the time, right, you're gonna get the card draw no matter what when you ride on top of her because of how streamlined the deck is right now in terms of Silver Thorn naming. Next up, 4 copies of Romy. I really love Romy. Basically same reason, with how streamlined the deck is in its naming right now. Romy is gonna get you that juicy, clean soul charging. Usually you're gonna get like minimum 2 Silver Thorns in soul, unless the top 3 are like 2 triggers, then that's too bad, right? So one of the more advanced plays you could do with Romy, previously with the old deck, which is the old Brehm, people like to stack the bottom of the deck with triggers by calling this every turn and using its ability with the old Lucia, but unfortunately you're not going to use it as much as before, so stacking in the deck is a little bit harder right now, so yeah. Final grade 1, we're playing 1 copy of Breathing Dragon. So Breathing Dragon is so good, honestly. I love this card. So since this deck doesn't have a real clear finisher, Breathing Dragon offers that 1 additional attack, and 1 additional attack, I'm gonna take it now. I'll take whatever I can for this deck. So it really works well in conjunction with the new VR, which is Venus Lucia, because her power gain to the front row is continuous. So what you could do is you could boost the old Lucia, send Lucia into soul using Breathing Dragon's effect. the Lucia comes out as 22k, and it will still get a plus 5000 because Venus Lucia is continuous. So it is really, really good, and I really like it. Okay, let's move on to the triggers first. Definitely, we are playing 8 fronts, so fronts are just more effective, right? Because of how many rearguard circles we have, so you know the front trigger is applied to that many more units, making it that much more effective as compared to critical triggers. We're playing 4 heals and draw PG. So draw Sentinel. The Sentinel draw is just more important, ever more important in this deck right now, as you know we like draw power, and also because of how draw Sentinel scales better into a later game. You know, those Scout Dragons are gonna be hard to guard, and yeah, the draw Sentinels are definitely gonna help. So this is a card for consideration, which is also a new addition to the Silver Thorn family in BD09, which is Silver Thorn Linear. So linear skill is real simple. VNR, you just boost or attack with it, it gets plus 5000 power, and you soul charge 1. So I mean, like, it's a random soul charge, and 5000 power is, it's not bad, but you don't really need that power. I prefer playing Romy over this because of the consistency that Romy offers, and since you're already hitting for that high numbers, right? Like Silver Thorn already hits for quite big numbers, so that 5000 power is, you know, it's alright. You don't really need it. So in terms of where this deck actually stands in the meta right now, I will give it a solid tier 2 rating. Simply because of the fact that there are decks that do better than Silver Thorns in what it's supposed to thrive in, which is you know, the battle of attrition. Actually, Night Rose does better in terms of farming and whatnot. So yeah, and I will actually, I'd much rather play Harry than Silver Thorn. Although the Margadors have a weaker early game as compared to Silver Thorn. If you manage to do a turn 2 Salvia play, which is actually quite explosive, not gonna lie. But yeah, other than that, Harry has a clear finisher. You can stack crits on Starry Pop Dragon and threaten lethal, maybe even on turn 3. So yeah, so this deck, it's fun. So it is still pretty good, just not as good as what the other meta decks currently are. So hope you guys enjoyed deck profile. Thanks for watching, bye bye.